Hey up, I dare say StarCraft here, and I'm going to be casting a 1 versus 1 game. This one's between Stardust, a Protoss, and over here, the legendary Jaedong. I say legendary because he was easily one of the most talented StarCraft 1 players. His micro was some of the most impressive. And there were times in his StarCraft 1 career where his win percentage was unparalleled. Now, while we're in the early stages of the game, let's talk about the weird video I posted. Not last week, that was just me nuking the Terran race into oblivion. I'm talking about the creepy one, the week before. I discovered when I was in Peru that ayahuasca was a big part of the culture, interwoven into something like a religion there. If you don't know what ayahuasca is, it's made from what's called the vine of the dead, so you know it's got to be good. It's basically a hallucinogenic, and it's steeped in a variety of other hallucinogenics, the recipe of which is known only to the shaman preparing it, and it sends you on this intensely vivid, disorienting trip that lasts for hours. Some people feel like they're plugged into a higher consciousness and end up having a kind of spiritual experience. For me, I just had a series of unbelievably harrowing and basically psychologically damaging trips. The people in our group went every couple days. I kept going over and over too, brutal as it was for me. It was like a moth bashing its body into a light bulb. I was just hoping for the magical experience everyone else seemed to be having. Anyway, what you heard in that video was one of my trips. I was off racing as Protoss, which is a disorienting experience all on its own for me. So it made sense in my head to pair the two things together, off racing and the memory of my ayahuasca trip. Anyway, cheers for indulging my madness. Let's get back to the game. We've not missed stacks of action really. Stardust going for fast expansion. He's laying down a cannon to make sure Zerglings don't make themselves pesky. Zerglings such as these two scouting buffoons heading across the map. It's only two, so he's not looking to put on any pressure. And he's not following it up with anything back home that would indicate he's interested in any aggression. And at the same time, our Protoss player laying down a couple of simulators. I say that with significance, but it does not actually reveal a whole lot about his intentions. The cannon shooing away that Zergling. Nothing gets revealed to that little guy. Now, it's worth saying Protoss players will usually block off the path into their base with a zealot, but that space is a bit too large for that. It's going to have to use something like a stalker. And Jaedong going for the third base here. This is a bit of a macro contest. Stardust has been burning most of his chrono boosts on his probes. Actually put him ahead right now in terms of harvesters. If a Protoss really wants to, they can pull ahead in probes early. But once the Zerg's got enough bases and queens injecting, they can pop multiple drones at once and catch up and pull ahead very easily. And as I say that, Jaedong pretty well evened up the harvester count. And Stardust, chrono boosting out that stalker, he realizes that hole in his wall could be a real problem for him. Very risky leaving that open all this time. Jaedong could just pump out a stream of Zerglings and end the game immediately. If he can get him inside the base, it's over. As it is, Jaedong focused on macro. Stardust laying down the robo. Of course, that makes a lot of sense. He knows that Jaedong's got a third. And when a Zerg goes for a third base this early, he's got to protect it. And in most cases, that means for a Zerg, roaches. And the direct, hard counter to roaches, immortals, which comes from the robo. Stardust also working on +1 weapons, very important against Zerg. Zealot without +1 weapons takes 3 swipes to kill a Zergling. With +1, only 2. Looks like Jaedong's going to get the surround on the Zealot. And see, it takes 3 swipes to kill a Zergling. And had that +1 gone through already, he would have been able to kill 2 Zerglings instead of just the 1. I realise on a small scale that's not a big deal. You're not going to lose the game to the 1 Zergling that got away. But it's the kind of thing that adds up. It accumulates over the course of a game. And wow, look at Jaedong pull ahead in the Harvesters now. He can produce so many drones at once. Can get a real economic advantage, but it is a bit of a risk. You get too greedy, make too many drones, your army's too small, and you get overrun. No one more aware of that fact than Jaedong, producing 5 roaches now. Stardust, finished up +1 weapons, now working on his armor upgrade. Jaedong a bit lazy on his upgrades. He's just now starting metabolic boost. And he's got Burrow queued up. And he cancels it. Looks like he opted for the +1 melee attack instead. But his upgrades are going to be way behind. Stardust now working on armor and +2 weapons at the same time. Jaedong claiming the watchtower. Going to send the rest of his Zerglings to scout out Stardust's 3rd base. These Zerglings on their own ayahuasca trip, completely lost in the woods. Jaedong laying down that macro hatchery, and he's getting the infestation pit. He's also working on glial reconstitution, helps his roaches move around a bit. Glial reconstitution, probably the most opaque term for an upgrade in the game. Jaedong also getting that Hydralisk Den, and at the same time he has confirmed that 3rd base, and he sees the composition of Stardust's army, and he just doesn't have much to contest it at this point. He's got a small squad of roaches, but that's not going to do jack against something like this. Luckily for Jaedong, his Overseer's going to run smack into that squad, and he's going to run his roaches away from that watchtower. Jaedong has to be very careful here. There's a lot of energy on those sentries. They can force field the roaches into a nice corral, while the Zealots and Immortals rip them to shreds. Jaedong's got a trick up his sleeve. He's producing swarm hosts, very powerful against gateway units. Stardust laying down the proxy pylon. He means business. He's going to wait for that 2nd Immortal to catch up, and then he's going to move forward. Oh no, I don't think Jaedong realises there's an observer right on top of his swarm host. Beautiful force field locking in what few locusts spawn and keeping those swarm hosts from escaping. It really hurts to lose these. Stardust really punishing the legendary Zerg. Each swarm host costs 200 minerals, 100 gas. It hurts to lose 2 this early. Stardust smelling blood, coming back to finish the job he started. Jaedong's going to have to muster up everything he's got to pull this off. Stardust committing to this attack, heading up into the 3rd base. Jaedong's roach is closing in behind, but he has to retreat from that punishing Immortal fire, dealing 60 damage a shot. Stardust is going to take this base, and there's nothing Jaedong can do about it. Jaedong swinging his roaches around back, but that's suicide. The sentries cut him off. Jaedong knows how dangerous those Immortals are. He's going to try and focus fire them down, but it's going to cost him the rest of his roaches. Adding insult to injury, a fresh Immortal walks in up the ramp, and there is not a single solitary roach left on the map. Jaedong just narrowly saving those drones from utter ruin. And Stardust is just going to back off here. He's dealt the damage he needed to, and he can just keep on poking away with this Warp Prism. He's loaded up an Immortal. Meanwhile, Jaedong sending a squad of Zerglings to counter-attack Stardust's base. And Stardust catches it before these Zerglings are going to get any damage done. Those Zealots are going to rip them to shreds, really proving the value of those upgrades. A handful of Zealots holding their own against mobs of Zerglings. Stardust not at all on the back foot. He's hunting around for a way to do damage while defending. Jaedong trying to find a way to make these Zerglings pay for themselves, but it's just not going to happen. Anywhere he goes, there's going to be Zealots there ready to fend him off. Stardust very nimble. flawlessly microing his defense as well as his offense, not losing a unit. And he's going to finally clean up these Zerglings as well. Stardust not passing up an opportunity to do any kind of damage. Might as well take out that extractor while he's got the time. He's going to send out a Phoenix, see if there's another base he should be harassing. If Jaedong ever wants to take this base again, Stardust wants to make sure he's got to lay down the extractors again too. And the harassment just never stops, making sure that Jaedong can really never push out of his base with his whole army. Probably the most crippling part of this is the fact that the Swarm Host have to stay in the main. The Swarm Host is a pretty clumsy defensive unit, and it's very susceptible to drops like this. The second the Swarm Hosts get repositioned, you just pick up and go somewhere else. The Locusts just bumbling around, useless without a purpose in their short-wasted lives. And Stardust going for the kill, sending in a squad of Dark Templars to snipe the Hive. And watch how fast that falls. Jaedong sent back armor units, but there's no Overseer in sight. He's trying to lay down spores, but it's just too late. Jaedong getting a little bit of revenge, taking out those Dark Templar. But at the same time, Stardust picking Jaedong apart. He's disabling this expansion, and he may well take it down. Wailing away at the drones, getting kill after kill. And what a glorious set of force fields corralling the Locusts in, funneling them out one by one. Jaedong's army is here, but the hatchery falls nonetheless. And even one Vigilante Immortal blasting away at that expansion. And back in Stardust base, it's serene, peaceful. Poor Jaedong, even his unmining bases are damaged. And the drops just keep coming. Say goodbye to the Roach Warren. Here today, gone tomorrow. And even more Dark Templars whittling down the army. Jaedong's main continuing to be ravaged. It's an utter chaos. And where is the army to clean this up? There's a whole nother warp cycle coming in, and Jaedong's army is going the other direction. He's going to go for a base race. It's a desperation move, but there's a certain logic to it. There's absolutely nothing back at home for Stardust, and you can see how well an undefended base fares in this game. It's going to come down to whose army can destroy buildings faster. There's a lot of DPS in the Swarm Host and Hydralisks. There's not very many Zerg buildings on the map at all. So if Jaedong is going to have absolutely any hope at winning this, he's going to have to work fast. And there he is on Stardust's doorstep, ringing the doorbell. Is anybody home? There's a solitary overcharged Nexus against a whole lot of Locusts. Zealots back in the expansion, tearing things apart. There's a Dark Templar killing any remaining drones. It's a bit sad, really. Drones make such a pathetic sound when they die. And the expansion falls. That leaves Jaedong with 0 mining bases. And he has precious few buildings at all. That hatchery is going to fall. So there's extractors and evolution chambers, and that's it. Jaedong needs to get a drone to his army, and he needs to put down a hatchery with his remaining minerals next to his Swarm Hosts. That's it. You gotta run your drones, mate, and get them out of there. Locust finally taken down the front door there. And this is it. It comes down to one last standoff. If Jaedong can clear these units, he has a chance. If he loses this force, he's done for. What is happening? That is so one-sided. It's the upgrades. The Zealots are 3-2. The Hydralisks and Roaches are only 2-1. The Locusts finally get to do what they were born for, but it's too late. Jaedong only has 3 buildings left. Better make that 2. And the only hope Jaedong has is if the Extractor can use those Tusky things to impale every last Protoss unit. And what do you know? It doesn't happen. Stardust takes this game against Jaedong with guerrilla tactics and a daring base trade. It's been, I dare say, StarCraft. I'll see you next time.